Jim Bodeen is a retired literature and writing teacher from Davis High School, where he worked for 32 years, and he is also the founder of the Blue Begonia Press. He describes his creative writing as his calling, and he pays special attention to the Latino community of Yakima and collected stories to compile the Asparagus Journal in 1988. And Mr. Bodeen is a man who deeply appreciates the theology and faith found in stories from the Latino and Native American communities here and in South America. And through his teaching, his poetry, and his publications, Mr. Bodeen demonstrates an appreciation for the importance of youth and community. His interest in peace activism and human rights is evident throughout his work. Mr. Bodeen was born in North Dakota and moved to Seattle with his family, where he graduated from high school. He holds a bachelor's degree in both education and history and a master's degree in English from Central Washington University, and he also earned a master's degree in religious education through summer programs at Seattle University. Mr. Bodeen has published multiple books of his own poetry, including Whole House Shaking, Impulse to Love, and This House, which he has written both in English and in Spanish. He is also the editor and publisher of many works of other poets. Blue Begonia Press, which he owns along with his wife Karen, has produced numerous poetry publications that have received state and national recognition. He continues to be an active worker in Blue Begonia Press and also continues his work with the poetry pole. Mr. Bodeen's 6-foot poetry pole stands in the garden of his home, where people can pin up their poetry or read others' poetry, and some of these poems have been gathered and published in the anthology called Weathered Pages. And he continues to inspire and encourage people to express themselves and to listen to themselves, the world, and to each other. So today we thank him for his enormous contribution to this community and to the medium of poetry. And we thank those of you who came and joined us this evening to welcome Mr. Bodeen to his first solo reading in many years. So please please join me in welcoming Mr. Bodeen to share his poetry, his stories, his philosophies with us this evening.
And I want to dedicate this reading to my mom, who's living in Yakima, and to John Sobrino, Jesuit theologian in San Salvador. I'll make sure Peter didn't get all that straight. Is that Katie? Morning prayer. God of impracticality, God of nothing but truth, may I be useless in all things, save your service. Keep me from all action. May I take care of my dogs. May they be my only teachers. May they help me in my nothingness. May the word be adequate, nothing more. The poem manifests its way in my hands open before you in my commitment to our correspondence. Provide for me a path of such uselessness that I'm left swirling in daily confusion, conforming only to that which is misunderstood, and to which I commit daily, with no sign of affirmation from you or the world. Make me the most useless among any in the world who have eyes. Karen just got here. She didn't know this, but I talked to my brother who coaches just on the way in, and he coaches the women's fast pitch at YVCC. And he took Mom to Safeco Field yesterday. and the African-American woman, usher, where are you, Karen? Okay. Made the announcement. She said, the word is out. Lucille is in the park. And I want you to get to know Mom tonight a little bit. Here's a little poem. Title is, After meeting Mom at Safeco Field for a game, I drive her back to Kent Park and Ride to get her car. Okay, she says, you go ahead, or else I'll think you're the police following me hot on my tail. Going to games with Mom. Getting off the bus at Royal Bro, Mom says, I usually run to get across here under the viaduct in the shade. The rest, they go down the sunny road. The teenager Mom talked with at the bus stop says, enjoy the game. Mom shows me how to sell tickets to the black guys on the street grilling dog. I do that, buy the Polish on a toast bun on a bed of caramelized onions wrapped in foil to keep it hot while I carry it inside, where I stop at the Philly steak stand to fill the bun with sauerkraut. I'm fully present to my mother. How does she do this? I bring all of the powers of the poet. This untamed spirit is my inheritance. We watch Alex taking batting practice. Texas is in town. Mom tells me Alex and his wife go to dinner with Ichiro and his wife as two couples. Yes, Alex is married. He's married in November. Last year I watched Alex and Lou talking on the field for the longest time. I wondered what was so important, so I took their picture. The next day, in the paper, I read that Alex asked Lou to come to his wedding. Mom gives me a hat to wear to the game. It says baseball in kanji. Mom tells me this. The problem is the logo of the credit card company sewn indelibly on the back. I asked Mom for a black marking pen, begin to blot it out. Mom says, I have something better. Gives me a small bottle of black enamel. And now I have a hat. At Safeco, I walk until I hear a couple speaking Japanese, and they're eating ice cream before the game. I show them the hat. Baseball, they say. But what is it in Japanese? Yakyu. Kanji? Yes, thank you. Yakyu, Mom. Baseball and kanji. This is our third game in 3 nights. We win big and we're 2-1. I'm with Mom for 4 games, a 12-game homestand for Mom. Do you think these legs will make it? She asked. I'm going to get you some support for that knee, and I want you to try it. I've been watching Mom's legs out of the corner of my eye. Old people know. They're sensitive like dogs. The minute the game is over, she's gone. I'm ready to die. Jim, everything has changed. Younger people care more for their dogs than they do for people. Of course, she's talking about me. Now, I'm a great-grandmother. That's fine. But when I started to wash my hair in the kitchen sink, my granddaughter said, you're washing your hair in the kitchen sink? I didn't feel like I could do a thing. I don't want to live any longer. That's Krista. She hates to miss the bus late at night. She picks a dangerous line in the street into the crowd going the other way. How does she avoid them without going down? She moves against them. She watches the ground so she doesn't fall. She moves into the street through the crowd, crossing. No, it's not dangerous, she tells me. The railroad tracks are dangerous. They're slippery. Go slow now. I like to look for certain people. She sees 2 people, introduces me, sees her friend. Claire, how's your leg? I'm walking. I'm not using a walker. I'm not using a cane either. I'm not going to fall anymore. We watch out for each other. We take care of your mom. These are the voices waiting for me at the 150 to Kent. Stay with me. Now, here it comes, Mom says. Sit here, she says to me. A woman with a walker gets on. Young people, the bus driver says, let your elders have your seats. The 2 women talk to Mom. ask about the ball games and safety. You're going to get up and do this again in the morning? Mom says, people break into houses too. Get out and live your life, the woman says, cheering Mom. Let me go down here, talk to Claire. Hi, old friend. How are you, Claire says. Did you say old? Aren't we? Mom was able to get this condo in Seattle because it was housing prices. And then we got her some tickets in '95, and she found out she could go to those games alone. And then she took out a loan on her house and got 3 season tickets so she could go to all the games. And so that 2 of us would be there with her. So that's part of the story. Switching to El Salvador, John Sobrino, recently put under the watch of the Pope. And they didn't censor him. But last March, I was in the community of Retiro Grande, there's a repopulated community made up of FMLN ex-combatants. And we spent a couple days there, and then I got to go into San Salvador, leaving the village of Retiro Grande, and listen to John Sobrino speak. Listening to John Sobrino, writing in my notebook while listening after returning from the repopulated community of Retiro Grande. Bird song, at sunset turns up the volume as the solitary speaks. Reformulated for the poor. Can you see the young man? Un mundo salvado, podemos hablar de esto. The forgotten ones, believers, saved from below. To admire a man who repeats what needs to be repeated relentlessly. Maybe it couldn't be done if it weren't for John Sobrino and the few like him, talking to power, talking about power relentlessly. Los pobres traen salvación. They mirror Christ. Among us, the question is not how to do theology after Auschwitz, but doing it in Auschwitz. That is, in the midst of a terrifying cross. It would be so easy to bring flush toilets, dentists, and doctors to places like Retiro Grande. We need a critical mass. Yesterday, the world from above said no. The world from above doesn't have the humanity. Flowers are important. No sabemos sus nombres. We don't know your name in este mundo de abajo. God of the life of victims, bringing us into a God different than the God of thought. Saved from below, we don't even know your name. The university can't save the world. The poor teach hope. No one else can. Y los pobres creen en Dios, en algo tanto básico. Participate in the risks and change your life. I want to thank Dan for putting this together, and all the Blue Begonia poets, everybody who puts a poem on the poetry poll, everybody who sets out on this journey in one way or the other. I'm going to read one poem from Impulse to Love as a request. In 1991, I went with 2 other people to Berkeley to hear Rigoberta Menchú before she won the Nobel Prize. But it was a meeting with Inés Hernández Ávila and a little group of 10 people on the archetypal images of Latin American women that changed my life. I was the only guy in there at the end of that. talk, she asked me, she said, Jim, what's the word for macho in your culture? She's a great teacher. And the other great thing that happened to me on this trip is I bought the Marie Sandoz biography of Crazy Horse. It had just been reprinted from the University of Nebraska Press. So I want to read this poem. In the Marie Sandoz Crazy Horse Camp, ceremony is as matter of fact as fire. Everyone travels from a great distance. This is the vision feather. Men with thick ears can tell what has been said. Ears for the people are a great gift. Everything is an unfinished story. We keep the strong black medicine coffee. We say no to whiskey. We shed the fat of the soldier food. We say no to things that divide us. Someone will say something of the world behind this one. This is why we have come. We accept the fact we are a broken people. We have left people behind to come here. Women go with the ones they choose, openly, untroubled, as is their right. Now, if those of you who have been in this class, change the word there. Just cross that word out and get that, because this is a revised poem. Women go with the ones they choose, openly untroubled, as is their right. We do not turn our broken sides to each other. The hearts of our women are not dust. We are not whipped. We are shirt wearers. We are big-hearted. The shirts show the solid world of our new life. We will resist the reservation. We will not go in. We are defenseless, but we are strategists. We will use the earth for cover. We are warriors. We have discipline. Our enemies will not hurt us. We are vigilant before our own people. From defeat, we have achieved a new fierceness, a new kind of recklessness. There can be no anger in the heart. We will not stay here forever. You learn how to go off by yourself. You learn that you belong to others. We have been shadow marked. Breathing together, we cross through language. We cross through division. No one can say what our work will be when we belong to the people. We will see like Crazy Horse, act like Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse is a promise. Crazy Horse is a tough promise. You want passion. Okay, are we buckled up? I've got the two best sons-in-law, and I got some pretty good kids. All three of my kids have studied Spanish in Mexico, and they're here tonight. And this is a poem that really is, you got to get ready for it. Krista. But it's a good poem. Now, this is called Ice Cream Cone and Back. My wife and I were in Arizona seeing Don King, the old teacher, and spent 10 days in the desert. And before we went there, we went across an ice cream cone. We crossed the border at Nogales for an ice cream cone on a Sunday afternoon because we can. 2.5 miles round trip, taking us just under 3 hours. Karen Drive, we just want to see 2 North American tourists in a rental car going for ice cream cones, fresh eyes, coming from the Desert Museum. Safe inside and privileged, we crossed back to the United States with digital cameras and notebooks, too small to be seen. The children's leather vests, chalecos I so loved, selling for 400 pesos in the market, can be had from your car under $10. Guadalupe and oil paint, sculpture and t-shirt. My favorite, a World War II bomber, B-29, made from aluminum that carried via canvas. 3 propeller blades of snipped aluminum promise safe passage and souvenir. Bubblegum, peanuts, and carnitas, fresh tamales. It can all be bought from your car. Tortillas, recién hechas. Crossing the border reconnects us to our story too, recién hechas. Karen still storing details and cells of her body. Our daughter married to the man from Michoacan who loved her in order to cross this line we all detest. Our family has stood these lines for days with appointment slips, wondering, waiting for the stamp of approval. We know the joys of a temporary green card. We know that young men crossing will cross with the infant desire for toys made for children of the well-to-do, that they must cross through each age of materialism to suck on freedom's straw. We gave our daughter to the beauty of this formal culture, to its shadow and to its border, its teeming underbelly. I buy a newspaper with a page one photo of the dead coyote, headline synonym pollero, and wonder about the cost of crossing today, Sunday, February 4th, 2007. 5 years ago it was $1,700. Riskier now. Arizona desert crossing dangerous. Vas a tomar tu propia orina. You will drink your own urine. I myself have crossed Mojado and back at El Paso Juarez to read poems by only dropping down in my seat with a book. Homeland Security is building a wall. Thirsty illegals broke into our friend's cabin 80 miles from Agua Prieta and tore up the toilet for water, evading Border Patrol, cutting for signs. Now, coyotes drop El Salvadorans and Chihuahuas in. Here we are, El Norte. There's McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Taillights create a light show for the camera, turning Karen's face the color of a setting sun. Mirrors help the camera see around corners as 3 Mexican police in orange vests shake down 2 young men against a wall. Cruce Peatonal, the sign reads. The U.S. agent asks our purpose, tells us of the dangers. We came for an ice cream cone. Turned around. We smile each other through. I've got a lot of friends who are pastors and priests, and usually they're in some other city. And there was a pastor in Yakima. You know, I told the class here, I grew up across from this Lutheran church in a little town in North Dakota. There was a guy by the name of Ron Mullen who used to almost feel me come and say, "Oh God, here he comes." And he sent me a book, and he sent me lots of them over the years. One of the things he said about pastors is that he said, at the very least, they should never say anything that they don't believe. That's all I ask. From the Mount Nebo notebooks. He sent me this book by Joseph Sittler. This is the view from Mount Nebo. Now, I'm not going to give you any help on the Spanish. There's no Spanish in here, but this word bereft in here. These are for the guys who are out on a limb. And I'm the guy who's talking about there, the bereft. But there are some benefits for traveling like we do. From the Mount Nebo notebooks. And out of their poverty, us, the poets, they fashion the only possible gift they can bring to the faith, a clarity given to the bereft that enables others to know and find. That's Joseph Sittler. From the pastor, before me in time, a book in the mail, a penned note. Don't miss Sittler's words on Mount Nebo. God talks to Moses. He will see the promised land, but not cross over. He will die in the land of Moab, buried in an unmarked grave. Deuteronomy is his headstone. Sittler shows what Moses has and what he doesn't get. Sight without actuality, knowledge without possession. Talking to pastors, young seminarians, Sittler shows insiders how to see what outsiders carry. Peculiar clarity, clear descriptor, the astringent voice. The old theologian's not done. his pipe packed and fired, sending smoke. He wanders between participation without substance, detachment with no peace. The man who sends the book sends his working text, his pastoral underlining, made for another time and purpose, promises my own in the mail soon. The one who crashes borders receives certus muc thermo, a sure word. Your life creates the aroma of Christ. Never far from a hidden cross, double gifted in book and letter. Why? All this? Sittler says, outsiders permit no phony revelation, no blessed assurance, no fat in Zion. He calls for another beatitude for those who hunger and thirst without being filled. A negative benediction to want to have is a strange kind of having. Because of all that is poor in me, for others bereft in natural talk, frank beyond belief. Is Katie still here? My granddaughter is gone. Is Josh is not here? About 20 years ago, Barry gave in a book by Taylor Branch. And there are 3 volumes on the King years. And then Barry also, as a guide, he said, what did he call it? He says, Branch is over in Seattle, so Mom and I went over and heard Taylor Branch. So this is a poem for my 2 grandchildren, Josh and Katie. One day in school, you'll need to make a report on Dr. Martin Luther King for Josh and Katie. And this poem is pasted inside that book. I took pictures, you know. Katie's slouched over sleeping on top of it. 3,000 pages of Taylor Branch's history of the King. You can start to look at this book then. You don't have to read it, just look at a few pictures. Read a couple of captions underneath the photos that interest you. You can make your report from looking at the pictures. Ask your mom and dad why these words, civil rights, are so important. Make them give you a good answer, too. You don't have to read the book, not yet. You can take it to school, maybe, to show your teacher and friends that your grandpa got you the biggest book ever on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's good to ask questions. Why did Grandpa get this book for me when I was a baby? Who is Taylor Branch, who wrote my name in the book? One day you'll want to know what all this has to do with you. Pick it up then. Look at the photo of Mrs. Rosa Parks and Bob Moses, too. Check their names in the index. See those overalls Moses is wearing? You can tell your friends that was the uniform of civil rights workers. You need to know about Medgar Evers, too. You'll know when it's time to pick up the book and read it on your own. Nobody will have to tell you. Dr. King led the marches for freedom. Young people, just like yourselves, were warriors pushing him from behind. One day you'll need this story, and one day the story will need you. This is a big book about freedom. That's why Grandpa got you this book. Oh, dang. Okay, this is a long poem. This is a narrative poem here. This is in El Salvador. And this is for Andrew Willis, who, a young man at Central Lutheran Church, went to El Salvador for Habitat for Humanity and just got this whole congregation stirred up in action. Yeah. And his parents are here tonight, Bruce and Ann. And this is an important poem to me. And to those of you who know that Merton is important in my life will hear the Merton. So this is driving down the backside of the mountain. And we did, you see if it's the backside. The side of the mountain never photographed is what Merton was looking for. Each one of us is carrying, each one charged. The old station wagon pulls out of Usulatan, where we built the house, a habitat team in another country. 5 workers loosely bound from the same town, pulling away from the work site, newly mixed with sweat and story. Questions mixed with cement. What each of us carries is too new to talk about. Putting down tiles for the floor. On the final afternoon, Jose, our crew chief, one of 2 skilled workers on the house this week, asked me, ¿Cuánto se pagan en los Estados Unidos por este trabajo? How much would I get paid in the United States for this work? I pause for direction and truth. Jose makes $15 a day, builds 10 houses a year. No sé, más cierto, pero no sé cuánto más. More, but I don't know how much more. En mi familia, mi esposa y yo, nosotros trabajamos. Ella gana más que yo. In our family, my wife and I both work. My wife makes more than I do. She works in a bank. She's the boss. She works long hours. I'm a teacher. I make less. But I make more than teachers in El Salvador. We work hard. We have a house with 2 bathrooms. We have a garden. We both have our own cars. I have 2 dogs. They're expensive dogs. We have good lives. We work hard. Our 3 kids each speak Spanish, have jobs, live on their own. Their lives will be more difficult. Mis hijas, como maestros, casados también, viven en sus propias casas. Mi hijo, el mismo edad de usted, su vida es más difícil. My son's life is more difficult, but he chose another path. He works hard for less. Eso es nuestra vida. That's how I answered as we finished the floor. Jose, the skilled worker, has been my boss this week. I carried buckets of cement, tried to do whatever he asked as I learned his Spanish and about his life. Bruce and Ann Willis put this together. Andrew, their son, 24, works for Habitat in El Salvador. He'd been there 8 months when Bruce called, trying to put together a team to build a house, wanting to see his son, to see this work. He and Ann carried their own questions. 2 years ago, on a boat crossing water, I met a man who said to me, if you want to write the best poems of your life, come to El Salvador. Now that's stepping out of the poem. That's Robert Johnson's contract with the devil right there. That's the hook in the cheek. I've been with him for more than a week. Where he walks, I walk. Any poetry is gravy. I came early to be with him, the one whose story called to me, and I'm going back for 10 more days of listening. When I met Medardo Gomez, the Lutheran bishop of El Salvador, we were at a retreat center above a lake. Another couple from Yakima, Ron and Helen Reel, met the bishop too. Sitting under the sun in the kiosk, I took their photographs, and Ron says, maybe we ought to go see what's happening down there. I don't know the last time I heard a good sermon. Ron and Helen have been all over the world on bicycles and canoes. Helen says our best fights were in that canoe. With a new hip, Helen mixed more cement and did more heavy lifting than I did. She managed the stretching I needed to do for my back. We're not children. We've been broken. Bruce and Ann and Ron are dentists, the best. We're from a church, nation, culture gone soft in the gums, addicted to oil and turned against the world. We've been to the places of the martyrs. We've stood in the Rose Garden at the Catholic University where the bodies were found. We've added our names to the book as witnesses and been to the small chapel where Romero took the assassin's bullet at the cancer hospital of Divine Providence. We've looked into each other's eyes and said what we did and didn't believe. Leaving Usulatan, Bruce wants to see this coffee plantation. Andrew has picked us up in his old car. We turn off the highway toward San Salvador and drive past the municipio of Ozatlan, and then past the turnoff to El Palmital, the canton surrounded by banana and coconut trees, where we built the house under a green mango tree. Alegria is the name of the town where the coffee is grown, where the plantation is, and why not? The dream of the hacienda has it all. Great view and the best collection of fighting cocks in Central America. This is a pleasure house. Birds are bred for beautiful feathers, bred to fight and die. Coffee and beer a mile above the ocean. Bruce isn't sure his son's car can get us down. The drive to the plantation has not been without cost. Father and son put a gallon of water in the radiator. Look at the map for another way down the mountain. A shorter ride into San Salvador. Out of Alegria then, through Berlin, Buenos Aires, San Agustin, towards Angela Montaña. Thomas Merton gave me the final steps to seeking God. Practicality, extreme sobriety, and courage. Be careful with all three. Practicality means neither useful or safe. The Trappist monk is in a festival of rain, slipping away from any abbot. Rain is free and meaningless. Those who price rain to give it value are already trying to bring it to market. Merton's cooking oatmeal on a Coleman stove. It's wet and he's under a tree. My mother says, "You don't have to go to El Salvador to find God." Merton agrees, laughing under wet trees, eating oatmeal. I'm coming off this mountain still looking. Merton listens to Felix Sensi's 6th century hermit putting words on the lips of Christ. I will make you rich men who have need of nothing. To be a contemplative is to be an outlier. Like Christ, like Paul, like Merton, I add. I found Merton the year I came back from Vietnam in 1968, the year Merton died. I wouldn't put that together for 30 years. It would take me longer than that to get here, to this mountain. And now we don't know if we'll make it down. We stopped for cattle. We stopped for rocks. We stopped for dust so thick it comes through the floorboard, through our clothes, into our bodies, all the time, listening to the groaning sounds of our wheels in the old station wagon. Coming on a road construction crew, wearing orange shirts. They look like they might be a work crew from a prison camp. Their smiles are braver than ours. Nothing is like what you see on TV. Workers everywhere make less. Now corporations have more power than the government. Ron breaks the collective silence, recalling days bicycling America. One night, Helen and I lay in our sleeping bags with our arms around each other, holding on for dear life. We couldn't shake the fear of those trucks passing us at 70 miles an hour. Andrew drives us off the mountain, his parents beside him in the front seat. We stop in the village for fresh quesadilla, a sweet cornbread in El Salvador, and a stop that allows us to stretch and dream. Now our faces, almost real, almost empty, begin to shine. Drinking bottles of water, our handkerchiefs wipe away dust and what's left of our masks. We smile at one another, resting. Ahead is one more wrong turn. Looking for the refugee camp, we will take a road into rock-felled Tierra Blanca, mistaking it for Angela Montaña, where all but Andrew get out and walk. The old car can't travel this road. Finally, when told by natives to turn around, we will understand their intent, not their language. Then the Sister of Providence will tell us her good news. We will find her, and she will swing from her hammock in her garden patio and tell us about the poor. She has been with them for 10 years. Children will gather at her door, smiling. We take their pictures. This is what Merton promised. This is how to open a church or family or village. This is the ride we came for, the ride off the mountain from the other side. This is the parable of the house. The young woman had told us, "Van a ver lo mismo personas, pero no lo mismo." You'll be the same person, but you won't be the same. Now we can listen to almost anything. We're not as afraid of what others have to say, or even our own words. We stand with a new way of seeing, with newly resonant voices prepared to speak. Thanks for staying with me on that one. The man with deep pockets wants to know what I do with my time. He means I'm not working to bring in money. I protect my time, I say, that's all, or most of what I do. He can't see much going on. Some things aren't fair and some seem mean. She wants me every morning, I say. She knows when I'm dodging all my pathetic little tricks to get around high calling. There's hell to pay, you know, when there's no devotion to duty. But I write poems, that's what, and all. Writing keeps me on my toes. This doesn't take long. We're standing together long enough to make our sandwiches. Red pepper hummus, I say. Yesterday I grilled some red peppers. After peeling them, they puree with the chickpeas and garlic. You can taste the smoke. We could talk about pockets and never run out of things to say. We could, if I paid a little more attention to my work, why I'm here. We were in Indiana. I'm going to go off this reading a little bit of practicality. Karen's mom died when she was 1. She was raised by her aunt and uncle, who were great parents with her. I kept a notebook when we went back to Indiana in 19 Karen. And Karen's a quiet woman, and she didn't really know what I was up to with it. But I wrote some poems in Karen's voices to her mom, and then I wrote this poem, Breaking Silence, Declaring Life to be True, Mother Talks. So this is the first time that Karen's mother talked to her. They never understood why I left. Indiana was home. Everyone wanted me to stay, but the elder ones already had new lives. I was the little one's best big friend. I could only fit into what was being made. Cousins who came behind me loved me for being young. One, on summer nights, light was yellow, lit by the dance of lightning bugs. I was with them then. There was never any bedtime. Oh, they loved me for those nights. Sisters could never love each other the way those kids loved me. But I was 18. The confusion of the light. Elm leaves, lost past in summer grass. My throat was dry. Salt water was the cry lifting in the heavy air. This thirst my secret for so long. Who could I tell? When I had a chance to go with Lem, I did. It was big, Seattle, and new, the West Coast, Pacific Ocean. In my letters home, I sent names like Bremerton and Winslow straight to Juan de Fuca. I wrote how boats from here fished waters off Alaska. I met a man and married him. Took the Norwegian name Benson. His father came from Bernston. I loved him for being from here. When I'd get lonesome, he put a swagger in his voice and called mountains into our backyard. He brought me asters from the Orient, danced me on forest floors with rhododendron petals. His friends were all from the sea. They teased me for being from a place so surrounded by land. We had a home on an island in the Sound. We'd picked blackberries big enough to fit over our thumbs. I used to imagine my family imagining me. And as soon as you answered to your name, I was gone. We had that 1 year. While your father worked a cannery at Ketchikan, we took the train to Indiana. As the Empire Builder crossed the Rockies at Glacier Park, cold morning air woke us both. Looking out the window, bouncing from track to track, crossing that line that divides us, I sang you back to sleep, wondering who you would be, Benson or Everett. It doesn't seem like much, those few pictures. Who became your mother? I can't see through trees planted for camouflage in war. I suppose your heart is still sore. What a terrible gift. And we went back this 2 summers ago, and we learned how to make hollyhock dolls. Anybody here know how to make them? See if this sounds right. This is for Elaine and Karen. Pinch the blossoms at the stem and upside down. The multi-layered bodice of green leaves covers the modern woman and the antebellum debutante. 8 petals sweep the dance floor. Now take just the bud and pinch it, carefully leaving the stem in place. Poke the stem into the upturned blossom. Her face glows. Her 2 eyes, demure, natural, and wild. This turbaned woman lines driveways, coy about her alley roots. Pinch another blossom to give her skirt south of the border color. Women love these fleeting moments. Young girls take their cues from their grandmothers, showing them how to dress and play and be. There's a Neil Young song about, in that last album, what is it about the being, if you follow every dream you might get lost? Well, remember, the singer, that's the title, doesn't know what he says. His job is to sing. The unsaid is also part of the song. If you don't follow every dream, you might be lost too. If you follow them, getting lost might still be somewhere out of your reach. Here's a little, it's a poem. It's one of those short poems. Sitting with our Bibles, if only we could sit and talk about Jesus. Present waking. No direct contact has taken place. This goes back to the guy with deep pockets, and then to a couple of Karen's friends who are twins, and I think I got this right. And then there's also a dream in here. Present waking. No direct contact has taken place. No portrait, but which one are you? I was hoping this shirt would take me into the kitchen. The voice said, "Is that me?" The man was asking about my direction, and how about products. I was being direct because I wanted to hear what I had to say about commerce. The jelly wasn't gelling, so I cut back on the juice and continued the boil for another fraction of a minute. Grapes had been left on the vine past the days of the dead. Any fruit left unharvested after Samhain is touched by the puka in the spirit world. A sensitized palate encourages danger. Nothing pisses her off more than a distracted lover. Looking into the crimson boil, the sugar gives itself up for clarity. You can't have both, she says. You're going to have to choose. That's pretty much the gist of it. I looked to my left, walking to the door. At first I thought, oh, she's here. What I thought was a reflection was a voice in the wind. You're going so fast. You're going to outrun your headlights. Are you going to dress like a bum? Mom asked when we get home from the game. What? I asked. What? Are you going to dress like a bum at that march? Mom has voices in her head. All those fears that are ready at a moment's notice. All those relatives on Dad's side of the family who turned Jesus into a hate-filled neocon. I'm reading Naomi's poems at Safeway, drinking a China green tea, gassing up before today's game. We can work on inner peace and world peace at the same time. Little people of the world, may we never feel helpless again, Naomi's peace pilgrim says. We were at the bus stop going to the game. 2 young black women had baby strollers. One had a baby. The other wheeled her own little market. Bananas, chips, candy bars, bottled water starting at 25 cents. God bless. Wheeling right through the bus when it came time to board. God bless. Mom and I riding now, talking with the young mother. The baby's 4 months old with personality, and I'm interested because I'm an 8-day-old grandpa myself, just getting started. Mom starts the conversation, and I watch the 2 of them listening until the young woman asks about Katrina. Have you heard any news about the people locked inside the convention center? I don't know, I say, lying. I say I don't know because I just heard the latest body count before picking up Mom. That's George Bush, Mom says. Your baby's playing with her mama's eyes already, I say to the mother. Oh, yes, she says. These millennium babies grow up fast. They have to. These 2 baby boys is why I'm on that train next week in Mississippi, I say, forgetting for a moment my own mother sitting beside me. I haven't told her yet. We don't want those babies growing up in the empire like this. Tell me about the train, the young mother says. My mom asked at the same time, is that the train, Cindy Sheehan will be on? Are you going on that train? That's the train. I say to them both, adding for Mom's sake, that's the train you taught me to ride, Mama, knowing she can't hear it now that I brought back all those voices sitting inside her head, waiting for her. We turned the talk back to baseball, and the game itself was a great game, even though we're in last place. 1-1 through 8 innings, and we win with a walk-off single by a rookie in our half of the ninth. Mom walking out cheering, but as soon as we sat down and we got home, she asked her question, what are you going to wear? What I had to say would have to wait until morning. Mom, there's only one thing that matters. The greatest thing you gave me, how to speak to the poor and ride that train. That would have to wait. A bum, Mom? Do I look like a bum? Have you ever seen me dressed like a bum? So, I dedicated my 60th year to my dad because he didn't make 60. And so I kept, there are these 2 big notebooks up here, someday that Joshua and Katie, and this 3rd one coming along I might want to fight over. But here's a little poem from when I was on the hike up in North Cascades. 4-line title, 2-line poem. Cloud hidden in blueberries, off trail by the falls below Heart Lake, up to my chest in bushes, I take another step and disappear. I'm 60, but only 60. These are a couple of ski poems. Windshield in wet snow. In the Jeep outside the restaurant at White Pass. Wet snow falling heavy and wind-driven. A poem of Jack Gilbert's recall his lost love for Michiko, the body's inability to remember, and the heart's inability to forget. I think of you in your last days at the bank, Karen, and what I know of great lovers in literature. I wanted that as much as I wanted the poem. I found that love in you, as outrageous as saying, you're mine. You remain mystery, mysterious and companion over time. Returning to you from this weather, I ask for nothing more, nothing. I would never again try balance, nor ever want composure. Men's room, White Pass. This is what I asked for, this being here, driving into mountains with rain, looking inward with liturgical music from Jude. Why abandon rock on a day like this? It's not about activity, it never is. In the commode at the summit, reading poems of Jack Gilbert, Refusing Heaven, I drop my book and it falls into the occupied stall next to me. Can you slide that book back over? I asked the skier. I don't want you to take care of me, my wife says. It comes to me here, the truth of her words. How are we doing on time?
We're right up against it.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay. You guys have been great. I'm going to read my son poem about my son. My son asked me, Dad, didn't you ever want a boat? I never wanted a boat. Listening to Mom talk to the man from Venezuela about her son. We were walking down the street when Jimmy was small and came to the crossroads. And I said, Jimmy, take my hand. He must have been 6, and he said, I can't, Mom. I've got my horse in my hand. Last poem. The Hollow Mountain. More than 56 miles of tunnels honeycomb Copper Mountain, this rocky hillside standing behind the old mill. Even before I find the switchbacks of language, the new path in an old dream returns and breaks its jail. Riding Langston Hughes into the mountain is the first act, crossing back. I photographed Emily rolling compacted garbage into silos before sending it down lake on barges. She knows how to wear the uniform of exile. When I become afraid the money will run out, I write a check to the Pilgrim Church of El Salvador. If I become completely useless, maybe I can speak truth. Me olvidé, el último abajo subiendo la montaña, caminando a la cuenca, siempre es. Once you have traveled this far with the poem, you can trust your nouns and verbs. This is hard-earned construction. One witnessing image in any step. Honor these tricky roads. Chilled on arrival. Take panoramic photos circling the meadow and get out of the rain. Kalamata olives spread on hummus and sliced onions over fresh baked bread makes a memorable sandwich. The path itself is your editor. I would not trade this emptiness for all of the copper taken to the bank. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming, everyone, this evening. We have a gift for Mr. Bodeen. I think some people may have done a couple of things. It's kind of a tradition for our readers. So, some chocolate for you there. That's good. And I think we got a YVC thing for you here. There we go. You go to softball.
Yeah, wear this and I want
Yeah. And people are welcome to come to the Sports Center afterwards. There's downtown Yakima where the guys shooting the gun on the sign. We kind of meet afterwards and get to hang out and talk. Jim, you're invited.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And please join us again in 2 weeks. And if I could have my students help put the tables back in the right spots, that'd be great. Thank you again for coming. Let's give Jim another round of applause.